survive. I could not save him. Mars is in.
I'll take her from here. We have it fixed on the Ranger.
He's pushing into orbit.
If he takes control of that ship, we're dead.
He'd ruin us?
Oh, he is ruining us.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where we are diving back into space and the world of Christopher Nolan and Interstellar. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Rocha. I'm a writer, producer, host, and voiceover artist here in San Diego, California, and ready to strap on the suit and get back into the ship and deal with all the madness that's about to come from one of our favorite actors, Steve. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, there would be no way for us to deal with that madness without the incredible support on patreon.com/the Cine-Files, as well as Apple Podcasts, where you can listen to ad-free versions of the show.
The other way you can support the show, of course, not only being a part of the Patreon, but if you can't be a part of the Patreon, if you listen to our show and hear the ads, another great way you can support us is by maybe using our code so you can get some percentage off if you hear about a product or service that you want to try. That way you kind of indicate to the companies that they should keep coming back and supporting us every month. And I think this month we've got Quince, we've got True Diagnostic, we've got BetterHelp. So quite a lot of people and quite a lot of organizations who are supporting us right now. So if you hear any good or service that you want to try, please make sure you use our code so you get a big percentage off and indicate to them that you want them to keep coming back and supporting us here on the Cine-Files.
And where we left off in our journey to save the planet, Professor Brand had just died and on his deathbed revealed to Murph that Plan A was always a lie and the whole human race is going to have to die off for Plan B to happen. And she has called out to the Endurance, and we heard her voice echoing through the empty ship because our crew has already left to head down to Dr. Mann's planet.
Yeah.
And we go down into the atmosphere, and then we see what I think, and already a movie filled with weird things. I think, we have this planet that was all water, but really shallow with these mountainous waves. And now we're flying into Mann's planet, and we run into a frozen cloud. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah. I love the shot here, too, just hearing the sound effect of that, just kind of rattling us as it's rattling the cloud as well, yeah.
And as we mentioned at the beginning, they worked really, really hard to make this a real science movie, even going to the point of figuring out the actual calculations in order to make it possible on Miller's planet to have 1 hour equals 7 years. And I read the book by Kip Thorne, the science advisor and executive producer, and he says this frozen cloud thing is right on the edge of possible. This is way out there in speculation land. He says that maybe it could be possible with frozen, maybe carbon dioxide crystals that are lodged with a certain combination of gases, which might make it buoyant enough to stay up. But he thinks this is one of the ones that's really pushing it.
I love that. If you squint really, really hard and maybe don't think about it too much. Yeah, I love that.
So, and as we're coming down, one thing to point out is we're now in a different ship than we were in before. Before we were in the Ranger, now we're in the Lander. These were both full-size ships that were hand-carved. And the idea is that the Lander, of course, is what you land with. And so part of the design here was to have glass on the bottom of the Lander, because when you're coming into a landing, that way you can see exactly what's below you.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But putting glass on the bottom meant that there was nowhere to bolt the chairs to, which in turn led them to have the chairs sort of suspended in the cockpit. And because they did that, then they could put the seats on gimbals so that as the Lander moves and flies, you can see the chairs pivoting to counteract the movement of the Lander, which is, it's them practically thinking through, how do we really want to do this?
It makes a lot of sense, and I love the fact that it's an ice planet. You know what I'm saying? Because we're about to go into something, for lack of a better term and a terrible pun, pretty cold. Someone who's going, someone who's going to do something pretty cold and pretty ruthless. And ice is always symbolized in movies that kind of emotional distance or rigidity. And so the fact that they're going into something like this, where some sharper edges are going to be revealed here about humanity, I think is a nice little kind of foreshadowing.
And as I said before, this is very similar location that they shot Batman Begins in. But what they had to do here is as we head towards Man's camp, where we see the American flag, and we can see that it's almost built into the ice, which in fact is what they did. They built this set into the ice, and this is a brutal, brutal environment. Huge winds come up, huge storms come up. And so almost every day that they were shooting, they essentially had to rebuild this set because it couldn't stand up to the weather.
Wow.
And because a glacier is actually moving, which is a strange thing, but a glacier is essentially a river. And so a couple of inches a day, this thing is kind of moving, which meant they didn't know what kind of shape their set would be in every morning that they got there.
Wow.
When we get to the door, we go inside, the lights come on, and it is, I think, right from the beginning, because it's so messy in there.
Yeah.
Like you feel something's gone on,
Yeah. If you know dudes, when you see a messy room like that, you're like, there's a certain kind of messy that from guys you go, yeah, something's not right here. There's a certain kind of messy.
Yeah, that is definitely this kind of messy. And they go over to the sleep pod, they wipe off the ice, and we see the name Dr. Man. Coop takes off his gloves. We open this thing up. And I think there's just a huge sense of anticipation of like, we're finding this guy way out in space. We have no idea what's happened to him.
Yeah.
Camera pushes in. Coop unzips the bag. We see the face of Matt Damon. Matt Damon sits up gasping and looks at him. And I think his performance in this moment is so great.
Every once in a while, Matt is such a interesting actor, because he has led so many films since he was a young man. Good Will Hunting, obviously, we did on the show. But it's always fascinating when he pops up in certain roles for small parts of the movie, right? Like when he's at the end of Finding Forrester, I think there's something really cool about that. When he shows up in Eurotrip and he's singing Scotty Doesn't Know because he's banging Kristen Crook behind the main guy's back, like these are weird little things that he does that I think he just enjoys doing, or being part of, like allowing his name to be used in South Park, that kind of thing. So you see little things that he does, he kind of gives back. Him being a part of this movie, this could have been any other actor, but to choose someone like Matt Damon, and Matt Damon wanting to do something like this for Christopher Nolan. And I wonder if this is one of the reasons why Nolan came back to him for the Odyssey, because there's been quite a few reports over the last few years that if you turn Nolan down, he rarely comes back to you. Nicolas Cage, recent interview, said that he turned Nolan down for a movie years ago and he's never called him again to be in anything. And that could be because maybe there's not a role for him, but it could also be because, he doesn't want to work with him because he turned him down. So the fact that Damon did this and then showed up there, it's a really cool thing,
I think, first of all, I think Matt Damon really likes to act.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Which isn't the same thing as really wanting to be a movie star. And right. I'm not saying he doesn't want to be a movie star, but when he's in this, and what's the Ben Affleck Nike, Air Jordan, what's it called?
Yes, Air. It's just called Air. Yes.
Matt Damon is so great in that.
Yeah, he is.
Playing that kind of schlubby guy.
Yeah.
And I think this is another, and it's funny because as we speak, I'm prepping for Oppenheimer, and I just watched the scene where his character shows up in Oppenheimer, another completely different kind of character that he plays beautifully. And the vulnerability and the pain and the relief that you see in his face when he sees that he's alive and that another human has found him is incredible.
I also think it's brilliant casting because, one, you're so right. You get a great performance from an actor like this. And in this moment, shows you a window into the performance he's going to deliver overall in this section of the movie. But also as the audience, right? It's Matt Damon. So we're immediately like, oh shit, it's Matt Damon. And then we have a predilection to like Matt Damon.
Exactly.
So the twist when it comes is all the more shocking and brutal. So it's just such smart casting to go with, to mess with the audience's built-in expectations about Matt Damon,
Well, and you're doing it on two levels because you're building it story-wise, because all we've heard about is the remarkable Dr. Man, and he's the best among us and all this stuff. And then we get a guy, just as you say, that we really like.
Yeah.
That we're primed to get screwed with. And here's the other thought I had is the first time I see the movie, I go, oh my God, he is unbelievably relieved to see that he is alive and that there is another human with him. I think that's still 100% true. But then as you watch it a second time, there's also
yeah.
I've lied to these people in order to bring them here.
Yes.
I've totally betrayed everything that I said that I stood for.
Right.
That's in this moment too.
Yeah, totally. Bubbling below the surface, absolutely. Yeah.
By the way, I'm sure you've seen it. There's been a meme going around about all the movies where people are trying to rescue Matt Damon, or Matt Damon is trying to go home. It's just like Saving Private Ryan and The Martian and Elysium, and of course The Odyssey is him trying to get home too. It's like Matt Damon has real troubles making it back home.
That's great.
Pray you never learn just how good it can be to see another face. I hadn't a lot of hope to begin with, but after so long, I had none. My supplies were completely exhausted. The last time I went to sleep, I didn't even set a waking date. You have literally raised me from the dead.
Lazarus.
We don't actually get to find out how many years in Dr. Man time he's been there.
Right.
So, but it could be 10, 20 years that he was alone,
Right.
What about the others?
I'm afraid you're it, sir.
So far, surely.
No, in our present situation, there's very little chance of rescuing any others.
And he takes that in, and they ask about his world.
Our world is cold, stark, but undeniably beautiful. The days are 67 hours long, cold. The nights are 67 far colder hours.
Sounds pretty brutal so far.
I know, right? He's laying it on thick, though, ain't he? Our world. Oh, the con is going on here, man.
And we hear, the gravity's 80% of Earth. That up here at this altitude, that the atmosphere is not breathable for more than a couple of minutes. But down at lower elevations, Dr. Mann tells us that it will be possible to support life. And now they're all really excited.
Yeah.
And he shows them his some of the data, and they're excited about the data. And this is another level of the science crazily taken to an extreme, which is they actually wrote up real fake data to represent the fake data that Matt Damon's character has created for us, and we never really see it. I mean, that's what's kind of crazy.
Wow.
How far have you explored?
I've mounted several major expeditions, but with oxygen and limited supply, Kip there really did most of the legwork.
And then we see that Kit has been disassembled.
What went wrong with him, sir?
Degeneration. He misidentified the first organics we found as ammonia crystals. We struggled on for a time, but ultimately I decommissioned him.
So what do you think actually happened with Kip?
I think Kit told him as soon as he started sending false information back, Kit was rejecting it, or tried to send false information back. Kit was rejecting it, and I think he dismantled Kit and broke him essentially. But I gotta say, like the first time I saw the movie, I had a fleeting thought in this moment when I saw the thing, being that was destroyed, because we had seen how Case and TARS were so capable. How could this be possible? But then it was gone. Like it was just a fleeting moment. I remember that distinctly. But I in no way thought that when the twist happens that it was going to happen. I just kind of thought that's odd that it would be broken, right? And so this moment is kind of interesting when you go back and rewatch the movie. That like, oh, this is the beginning of the super like creepy kind of energy that's starting to come into your mind when you're watching these scenes again, that of how he's like, you can see the clues here if you know the backstory of what he's going to do.
Well, this is one of the tests of any movie that has a twist is, does it work backwards? Is that when you watch it the second time, does it get better or does it get less good? And this one I think is really like, because the next moment is I think TARS offers to help to try to fix Kip, and he goes, no, he needs a human touch. Now, to be clear, has Dr. Mann, is the reason that there is an explosion that Dr. Mann rigged Kip to explode when a human tried to access the data?
I think so.
I think so too.
Yeah, because I mean, he doesn't want to be found out, basically, for what he's done. Yeah.
Well, and the thing too is what that means is he intended to blow up Kip and the human that touched him. right?
Yes.
Like, it wasn't like a maybe I'll have to blow up the camp. It is
No.
part of his plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's essentially gone. You know, it's kind of interesting. It's occurring to me as we talk about it right now. He's essentially gone Ted Kaczynski in this kind of a situation, out by himself in this area, and he has rigged stuff so that he can get what he wants and get out of there, right? And so the people coming to save him. So in a way, and I don't mean Ted Kaczynski like one for one. I just mean like someone who sometimes disattaches from society and then sets things up in case anyone comes to get what they have, and that's, or find them out. And that seems essentially what he's done here, you know?
I think that the smarter you are, the better you can become at rationalizations.
Oh, yes, 100%.
And I think Dr. Mann spent a decade probably by himself slowly rationalizing out why everything that he's going to do in this scene is not only just saving his own life, but this is in fact the only way to save humanity is what he's doing. I think he thinks that.
And he says that later when he's in the ship and he's broken away, right? This is it's not about Cooper, it's not about Brand, it's about humankind, and I'm doing this for humanity, for us.
And then we hear that that Case is relaying a message from the space station that just came in, and of course we know what the message is.
Dr. Brand, I'm sorry to tell you that your father died today.
And Matthew McConaughey's reaction to hearing Murph's voice is great. You know, they're just so filled with so much stuff.
This was all a sham. He left us here to suffocate, to starve.
And we cut to Cooper, who's crying.
Did my father know too? I just want to know if you left me here to die.
Having your kid believe that about you and having no way that you can tell them the truth, knowing they have to live with that thought about you, their parent, for years, decades, is just, I can't imagine.
Well, and also, what is Cooper going through the further he gets away from Murph? You know what I'm saying? Like the more time he spends away from Murph, how much more desperate is he becoming about his feelings for her and the connection and his decision, you know, which I think is interesting to consider when you rewatch the movie.
Well, particularly what he's finding out right now.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Or he never even hoped to get people off the Earth.
No.
He's been trying to solve the gravity equation for 40 years.
Amelia, your father solved his equation before I even left.
Ugh.
It's so that also means that Dr. Mann was lying to Edmonds and Miller, I assume, on this trip. And it also means if Dr. Mann knows that Plan A was always bullshit, he was saving his own life from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because the only way for a human to survive is to get off that planet.
What a surprise. A clever PR campaign or narrative can, make someone who's supposedly this intelligent seem like, a great person for doing what they did, because that's all that's been pumped out. Just as we saw at the beginning of the movie, we started the space program to bankrupt the Russians. We never landed on the moon. So it's about fabricating these narratives in the misguided belief that that's what you need to do in order to be able to assure the survival of mankind.
Well, and remember what they said about him. They said he was the bravest person among us. He's the person who convinced us to, Miller and Edmonds, to go on this impossible journey. Well, he knew that this was the only way for him to survive. He was the least brave among them.
Exactly. And how much of this, and honestly, the more you look at this film, the more you start to look at Professor Brand. And you start to be like, well, how much of this is all him? And people who are willingly going along with whatever narrative Brand wants to pump out there to people. And that's the thing that I think makes me really uncomfortable when I watch the movie again and again, is how much Brand is, you could trace all of this back to him, and people being willing to go along with it.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is, I certainly think this of Professor Brand, but I also think this of Dr. Mann in a different way, is they do have the best of intentions. At least they think they do. They're operating like, I did just say that Mann managed to get himself off the planet, but they think they're trying to save the world. Professor Brand definitely thinks he's trying to save the human race. He is trying to save the human race. But the arrogance of thinking yours is the only way,
Right.
This is why anytime people put forth idea, like this is the only way to do this, or the other side doesn't know anything, is totally wrong and we're totally right. I always push against that, because there isn't just one only way, and there's a certain arrogance and a certain rigidity in getting caught in the just, I have the right answer.
I absolutely hear what you're saying, but we also have to, in order to function as a society, we have to collectively overall agree on a right belief or right answer about certain things in order to function, or else we have no society. We have no construct from which to function within. And I think that's where the lines get crossed, is like, well, how many people are legitimately questioning and how many are questioning for their own narratives or their own selfish purposes? How many people are pumping doubt out there that they know is false in order to achieve their own goals? And that's unfortunate. That's an unfortunate thing when you see it happening, because man is essentially that. And to a degree, Brand is that. Because you said that earlier, right? That, mine is the only way. Brand thought that and let no one else in on it who wasn't willing to be part of the lie. And that's the question. How many of these people knew? How many of these scientists knew when they flew out there that they were part of a Brand's lie? How many? Was it just Man? Was it just Man and Brand who came up with this narrative and convinced everyone else in their community to go along with it? Because even his own daughter didn't know, as she protests here in this scene.
And what we find out is basically, what we've sort of heard already is that Brand figured out everything that was possible to figure out on that side of the black hole, and the rest of it they can't figure out, because you would have to see inside of the black hole. Well, the interesting one is when Cooper asks to confirm that, Romilly to confirm that, Romilly confirms that's the case. And I suddenly went, wait, was Romilly in on this lie?
I don't think he was. Like, I just don't want to believe that he was, I guess. And I would have a hard time accepting that, considering all they put him through in the movie, and I just don't know if I would believe that, because he's such not an active participant in steering where anything goes. So I kind of believe like he's as much in the dark as everyone else. And maybe he's like had an occasional moment of like, wait, what's going on here? But maybe he has too much respect to question it. I don't know.
I'll give a very unscientific answer, which is that I'm going to choose to believe that Romilly didn't know, because I really like Romilly, and I would rather that the story was about Romilly not knowing than him knowing.
Well, I mean, if he was aggressively making them go do certain things or go to certain planets, or I might believe he had a little more knowledge of stuff. But because he's such a passive observer on all of this, passive passenger to a degree, I don't know if I could see that he knew all this ahead of time. But I like your answer better. I like Romilly, so yeah.
Why keep building those damn
Because
stations?
he knew how hard it would be to get people to work together to save the species instead of themselves or their children.
Such a pessimistic, right?
I think the point, let me give you his next line, because I think it's a really interesting one to discuss, which is he says,
You never would have come here unless you believed you were going to save them. Evolution has yet to transcend that simple barrier. We can care deeply, selflessly, about those we know, but that empathy rarely extends beyond our line of sight.
I think, this is like the Stalin quote of 1 death is a tragedy, 1,000,000 deaths is a statistic. I think there's definitely truthiness in what Man is saying. It's much harder to care about someone that's far away from you than you never met than it is about someone you love and is in your life. And the more similar, we tend to care more about people that are more similar to us than more different from us, and that's certainly true. But it's a pretty cold way that Dr. Mann says it.
Well, I think it's very pessimistic, because I think this is a point of view that is shared by only a small percentage of people. I think actually people can come together. We've come together.
I agree.
And there's been numerous examples of human beings coming together to save other human beings. Look at all the charities that go on through our country and other countries. So many strangers getting together to help other people who are down on their luck or who are suffering or who are going through. Look at when there was the hurricane, people, no matter what political affiliation, show up and try to help, show up and try to contribute, the American Red Cross. So as I get older, I bristle at those points of views or plot points in movies because I think they're born from a place of pessimism because it serves the person who is pushing that narrative to believe or push out that point of view because it serves their agenda or their purpose. And I think there are just so many examples of human beings coming together to overcome their differences and help other people. You know.
I think that, the mistake is thinking this is binary. Is like the way Mann says it is he goes, people only care about their immediate family and people like them and people close to them, and they don't care at all about any. And that's not true. As you said, there's all sorts of examples of people doing it. I do think it's certainly harder. Like getting people to, we used to see those, ads about, when there was the famine in Africa and for 10 cents a day, you can save this kid's life. And it's hard to get people to give the 10 cents a day for that kid that's really, really far away. It's easier to get someone to give money for things that are closer to them. That's certainly true. It's also certainly true that, like, if you ask people, how many people died in Vietnam, if an American has an answer at all, they usually will say 50,000 people. Well, that's actually 50,000 Americans died in Vietnam. It's 3 million Vietnamese died in Vietnam. Right. If you ask about the war in Iraq, people say, oh, I think it's around 5,000 Americans died, but maybe 500,000 Iraqis died. Like we have trouble reconciling and thinking of all of the humanity as all equally human. But I think to your point, but to your point, we can do it. We have done it many, many times.
I mean, it's a great point you bring up because, right now, with the war that's raging in Iran as we're recording this in 2026, God knows when you guys are going to listen to it down the road, some of you who discover us later on. Maybe we're in the fifth dimension now, you're discovering the show. Yeah. But the people just talk about, the 13 soldiers that have died so far in Iran. And it's like, look at how many Iranians have been killed, mothers, fathers, children who are just bombed, who have nothing to do with steering the government or what the government is doing, yet people seem to remove value from those lives, yet they'll sit in a church and talk about God loving all his creatures. And it's like, well, what's the truth here? And so it's an interesting conundrum when you kind of break all this stuff down and look at yourself and look at other people,
Yep. I mean, but this is why this is a good movie, though, because I think it's not... 100%. Man has a point. I just don't think he's 100% right.
It's a convenient point for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely convenient for him. And man, Anne Hathaway's reaction is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the lie, monstrous lie,
unforgivable, and he knew that. He was prepared to destroy his own humanity in order to save the species. He made an incredible sacrifice.
No.
Fuck you. Just like, come on. Oh, poor baby, you sacrifice. But it's maybe, and also, you know what it is? I'm an atheist. So I actually don't believe in heaven and hell. And so, it's like, if I really believed in the fires of hell, well, then Professor Brand is burning in them right now.
Right.
So then I could call that a sacrifice. But maintaining a lie while you cushily work on your job in NASA with more technology than the rest of the world who's all starving while you've, done this thing, I'm not saying you made a sacrifice at all.
No. Yeah. And it's no surprise that one liar is uplifting another liar.
Now, the incredible sacrifice is being made by the people on Earth who are going to die because in his arrogance, he declared their case hopeless.
That's a great line, right? Isn't that what we deal with now? And wherever you are about science or about scientists, people are now becoming more and more skeptical of that kind of stuff and the people who wield it and use it to do the things that they do. And so it's fascinating to see that be an argument in a film from over 10 years ago.
You know what movie does make me feel this thing of an incredible sacrifice made by someone who had to make a terrible decision like this? Is the movie that that I had never seen that we talked about on a live show, which is Failsafe. Is that
right?
Henry Fonda in Failsafe and the pilot, the colonel who has to actually drop the bomb.
Yeah.
Like, you feel the moral weight, the horribleness of the decision that they have made, and why, and that Henry Fonda will live with that decision for the rest of his life, but he could not find another choice.
I'm sorry, Cooper. Their case is hopeless.
No.
No. We are the future.
And it's like Matthew McConaughey doesn't even know what to do with his body in this moment.
Cooper, what can I do?
Let me go home.
Now, the one thing I do think, I think the idea that Cooper would go home, I don't buy this decision at all. I totally understand that more than anything in the world, he wants to go home. I totally get that. But we've seen how easy it is for someone to die. Doyle died on the water planet. There only are 4 of them at this moment. And if he leaves, there will be only 3, and he'll take one of the ships with some of the equipment. You have no idea, like the literal fate, the fate of humanity rests on these people. I don't think Cooper would leave. That just seems nuts,
It's an interesting moment too, because like we were just saying how man is being selfish, and here's Cooper, and to a degree being selfish, because he's essentially possibly sacrificing the mission just so he can go home and see Murph, see his family.
And speaking of Murph, that's where we go. We go back to Earth. She's driving with Getty, Topher Grace.
You're absolutely positive.
His solution was correct. He had it for years.
It's worthless.
It's half the answer.
Okay. How do you find the other half?
Well, we've now hit real hard. The audience is very clear on the other half you can only find inside a black hole.
Yeah.
And what's so great is that we have this pairing, that we kind of have the two halves of Murph and Cooper. They can't communicate with each other. They can't share information. They can't help each other to save the day.
Yeah.
So, do you have an idea?
A feeling. I told you about my ghost.
And we cut to her as the little girl looking at the fallen books.
My dad thought I called it a ghost because I was scared of it. But I was never scared of it. I called it a ghost because it felt like a person. It was trying to tell me something. If there's an answer here on Earth, it's back there. Somehow in that room.
And I think this echoes with so many things we've seen, like, for instance, the scene with Anne Hathaway saying she's drawn to Edmonds, and maybe that means something,
Yeah.
And in this case, that feeling absolutely does mean something.
Okay, so this is a interesting thing to look at here with Mike, because she is all of a sudden having this feeling, right? And of course, she's probably had these thoughts for a while now, right? But the exposure of the lie has kind of shook something in her, that there's something more here that I experienced in this room. There's something more that happened in this room. And now with the lie kind of out there, she has she refocuses in essence on what went on there. And so in a way, here are scientists saying, these particular scientists, not all scientists, I want to make that really clear. Some people get generalized with these stuff, but these scientists, being Brand and being Mann, are like, this is what's best. We know what's best. This is, humanity's doomed. Fuck them. There's no way. We got to do what the future is, and we're going to be the vanguard of the future, right? And I bet Mann in his arrogance almost thinks like he's going to populate the future, maybe, and have sex with a lot of women and have babies and all that. I mean, if you're going to go all the way out there, it's possible.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, he's such a selfish son of a bitch. It seems like he would do that. But these are the guys that are representative of science. And what is Anne Hathaway, as you said so well, Steve, bringing up the conversation about Edmonds, right? She's saying, in essence, love is almost like another science in its own way. And the purveyors of it are using or follow it in ways that are unexplainable. Like a lot of science phenomena, it can be unexplainable sometimes. And so I think this is what she's leading with. She's leading with this love because, yes, for all she knows about science, she's the mixture of both. She's a mixture of a very knowledgeable person about science, but she's also someone who leads with her heart. And the mixture of two is what makes her the right person for the future to choose to give the information to, so she can assure the future of mankind existing past what's happening right in her world at that time.
It's so funny. Like, I think it works really well. And I think there are certain things you sometimes have to do in movies that don't 100% make sense in order to get what you want to get. And what we want to get is that Murph stays away from that room, and basically everybody stays away from that room for 30 years until she finally comes back and solves the mystery. And to me, it's like, because I think feeling and love is absolutely the conduit across time that saves the human race. That's what this movie is about. I totally agree.
Yeah,
but if I was a scientist who didn't believe that even love existed, I'd want to go back to that fucking room. I know I said it before, but they should have tented it in like E.T., like the government does when E.T. is there. Like literally a message from nowhere gave them the coordinates of how to find the base. Like that is, there's weird gravity in there. And we're sitting there going, we know that gravity has to do with the wormhole, which was sent by something. So this thing has to have something to do with the wormhole. And the fact that they haven't spent the last 30 years in that room trying to figure out what the hell happened is nuts to me. It's like they should have gone back there and did, if you're sitting there going, I can't solve that problem.
Right.
Well, there's this mystery over here. Why don't I go try to solve the mystery over here? Rather than just doing the same thing over and over again with Professor Brand, So we're back with Dr. Mann, and we're kind of putting together what Cooper is going to take with him on his journey back to Earth. And Romilly comes up and says, hey, can you take one more crack at the black hole? And I think what we're doing, I think we're continuing to pepper the exposition to make sure, like maybe if we just get on the corona, the edge, right before the point of no return, we might be able to pull some data and send it back. And I like as we're talking about this quote unquote probe, it becomes clear the probe suddenly gets a pronoun.
If he's equipped to transmit every form of energy that can pulse.
Just when did this probe become a he, Professor?
I love that.
Can you do this for us?
Before you get all teary, try to remember that as a robot, I have to do anything you say.
Your key light's broken.
I'm not joking.
Which I think is great. I think it's it again, this is the anti-Hal,
Yeah. The pal, one might say.
Yes, exactly. And talk to Dr. Mann about removing some of the stuff from Kip.
I'm gonna need TARS to remove and adapt some components from Kip.
Well, I don't want to disturb his archival functions.
Oh, I'll supervise.
All right.
So when he says, I'll supervise him, and he says, okay, he did just sign Romilly's death sentence. And
in essence, yes.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Matt, when you watch the scene, Matt has this like slight moment of hesitation, like, like I'm making this decision now and basically dooming someone to death, possibly.
Well, and it's also, just like I was saying, I don't think it makes sense for Cooper to go home, having Romilly, one great kind of scientist and just another body, means that the chances of the human race surviving went way down. And all the equipment that was in that station that he blows up, you might have needed a wrench or something. And because you didn't, for the lack of a wrench, human life does not get saved.
A kingdom for a wrench.
Yeah. And then Cooper wants to, he wants to basically get the hell out of there. So he's rushing Dr. Mann to get things done right away.
But you're going to need a long-range transmitter. Got it. Are you charged?
Yeah.
And we gesture to this little chip, which is the transmitter that he's going to pull off of Cooper later on. They have their spacesuits on and they're heading off into, this wilderness. By the way, again, like everything else they did, the spacesuits, they spent a lot of time at NASA looking at actual spacesuits. The one things they don't do is puff up, the way NASA suits do. They didn't want to do that. But other than that, these things are pretty practical. And what was funny is they used this material that was sort of a kind of quilted material on the spacesuits. And the guys who are in the production design department look at this material and like, that stuff's pretty cool. So they ordered like 30 more pounds of it. And it's that quilted material is inside the Endurance in various places.
Oh, wow.
Because they liked it. These things got super hot. So there's a cooling shirt inside. They did have to breathe through these helmets. They were genuinely sealed. So they had to have air circulation going on. And then, but the interesting thing is they also, which is very smart, they put microphones inside the helmets so that when they're recording the audio for the dialogue, they don't have to ADR. It's literally right there in the helmets. But the better thing about it is they're shooting IMAX cameras, and IMAX cameras are notoriously loud.
Yeah.
Which means that for a lot of the stuff, that if they shot it on IMAX, they had to then re-record the dialogue with ADR. But not when they were in the spacesuits, because the helmets are thick enough that it cuts off the sound of the loud IMAX camera and you're only hearing people's voices.
That's good.
I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention that a mission such as ours could certainly use an extra engineer.
It's just
Here
that
he
little
goes.
bit of a con, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is him kicking the tires on whether he can get Cooper to join his side. Yeah.
Right, but that doesn't. Oh, so you mean because he's killing Romilly? So
Yeah.
to get Cooper to join his side, it means joining in the side where I just murdered Romilly.
Yes,
That's
essentially.
tough. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But Cooper's not having any of it. He's ready to go home.
You have attachment. Even without a family, I can promise you that yearning to be with other people is powerful. That emotion is at the foundation. What makes us human. It's not to be taken lightly.
I think one of the things that's really hard to do, and they do really well, is you do kind of understand that Dr. Mann is remarkable, you know?
Yeah.
He's clearly a brilliant guy.
Yes.
And a deep thinker, you know?
Yes. Well, when you're alone that long, you're thinking about a lot of things deeply, I would imagine. But yeah, I mean, watching it again this time for our conversation and our show, I found myself having sympathy for Mann, not excusing. Those are two different things.
Yeah.
Not excusing any of his actions. But so many of us watch movies and we judge these characters because, I mean, the movies want us to, right? But in this situation, I just kind of was taking a step back. How would any of us react being alone for that long with our own thoughts? How many of us would do the right thing? How many of us would actually, not try to get saved? And how many of us have like, no, I'm gung ho for this mission. And then once you're out there, you realize, oh, I'm essentially fucked from the first second I land on this planet. Like this planet's not inhabitable. I'm going to die. So how many people would fabricate signals or data rather, just to motivate somebody to come save them? So it's real easy to judge when you're not in that situation. But I found more sympathy for Mann as I was watching the movie this time around, And maybe it's me getting old. I don't know.
I was thinking about this too. And I obviously, we don't know how we're going to behave under stressful situations. We don't, the people, you can have all the dreams of you heroically carrying the flag in a battle that you want.
Yeah.
But when the bombs start going off, maybe you're not going to do that. But I have been in a few first aid situations, fight situations. I once, there was a woman whose costume had caught on fire and I grabbed it and ran around a crowded party with a ball of fire in my hand, burning my arm, looking for a place that I could safely put it out. So I've been in some things that give me some sense of things I would do under pressure. And this one, I don't know what the fuck I would do.
10
because
years
the difference
marooned on an ice planet.
That's
I
the
don't
thing.
know. Yeah, exactly.
There's a big difference between doing something in a moment.
Yeah.
Or doing something like, choosing to be generous or things like that. There's differences with the self-sacrificing things, and having to day after day, year after year, alone in a galaxy.
Yeah.
It might very well break me. You know what I mean?
Think about the fact that you are one of the most intelligent people on the planet, I would imagine, right? And
me or Dr. Mann?
No, Dr. Mann. And
I was like, gee, John, thanks.
But imagine that, right? And you land on that planet and your calculations, because I imagine that he might have thought that he was going to pick the right planet.
Right.
Knowing man, just judging from the small time we get with him on the planet, I feel like he's got this arrogance about himself, right? And you land and you realize that you didn't. And now you're kind of fucked because of that situation. And the question becomes like, well, what are you going to do in that moment? And as you're saying there longer and longer, does it occur to you, well, I should live because I am so intelligent. It would be a bigger loss for humanity if I don't find a way to live. You see what I'm saying? The rationalization starts to take over the more time you spend by yourself. And you can say to yourself all you want about self-sacrifice or like, well, I won't miss people or I understand what I'm doing. But when you actually have to do it, it's a whole nother ball game and stuff you didn't even consider. You know, I mean, Mike Tyson's great quote, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. And it's kind of like this situation punched man in the mouth as soon as he landed on the planet.
Well, it's like, I don't care about my life, John. It's meaningless to me. If I could sacrifice it to help humanity, I certainly would. But John, people depend upon the Cine-Files.
Yeah,
The Cine-Files must continue. Therefore, it's not for me that I embezzled all that money or, murdered those 3 people. That's not for me. It's to keep the Cine-Files going for the people, John.
For the people. For the people. I did it for the people.
So what happens now is and this is an extended intercut sequence where we're going to go from the Dr. Mann and Cooper story back to Murph going back to the old farmhouse with Getty. And we're going to go back and forth. And sometimes when we've had sequences like this on the podcast, I've gone like, let's split them out and tell them as separate stories, because it could be hard just in terms of the way we discuss things to go, and now we're back here, and now we're back here, and now we're back here. And I started to do it. And then I went, no, you can't do that because they're so interconnected.
Yes.
They're so about the same things and contributing to each other. And so we have to kind of go through them. And right now we're back at the farmhouse, and we see Murph go into her room as a kid, and then she goes into the room as an adult. And this is this thing that, we're not going to mention every single shot where we go back in time, forward in time, back in time in terms of Murphy. Getty is downstairs with Lois, who coughs.
How long have you had that cough?
A while.
And at the same time this is happening, we're back on the planet.
Just take this gently.
And they jump up using the coolest little arm thrusters. I think they're super cool.
Yeah.
And now, Man's going to continue to monologue. Yeah. He monologues.
You know why we couldn't just send machines on these missions, don't you, Cooper? A machine doesn't improvise well because you can't program a fear of death. Our survival instinct is our single greatest source of inspiration.
So that is part of his whole rationalization, because that is why he's doing what he's doing. His survival instinct told him to do this, and now he's manipulated that into being the best hope for humanity.
I mean, he's essentially trying to smooth the rail, so to speak, so that when Cooper ever finds out, he will have told all this stuff ahead of time, so that maybe he's got a little bit of foundation to convince Cooper that what he did was right. So he's just saying all of this stuff, or because of what he does here in a couple minutes, he's doing all of this to kind of rationalize it to himself, but also keep Cooper off balance to a degree. Yeah.
I think it's rationalizing to himself. I also think Dr. Mann likes hearing himself talk, and he hasn't had anyone to listen to his brilliant, remarkable ideas in decades. And Good point. Now he's just excited to share what he's figured out.
Take you, for example, a father with a survival instinct that extends to your kids.
And we go, I think that's perfectly true.
Yeah.
Then he says this thing that I didn't check on this, but we're going to a weirder place.
What does research tell us is the last thing you're going to see before you die? Your children, their faces. At the moment of death, your mind's going to push a little bit harder to survive.
I'm not familiar with this research. And I think it's probably more likely that you see your kids' faces when you're dying than see other people. But but what's so great about what he's doing, both in terms of his character, is he's pushing Cooper, he's rationalizing for himself.
Yeah.
But this is also what this movie is about, is that and we're going to connect it up. It's both about what this movie is about in terms of how do we save the human race, which is Cooper and Murph come together, but it's also, we're going to flip it because Murph is going to see young Cooper when she's on her deathbed.
Right.
Not the father seeing the child, but the child seeing the father.
Yeah.
And this also, of course, connects to that line we heard from Dr. Brand of what's the point of remembering people after they're gone? It's also connecting to that, this moment of death, life's purpose. I think that's all thematically connected.
Yeah, agreed.
By the way, weather is brutal where they're shooting here. Huge winds would come out of nowhere. Christopher Nolan, not surprisingly, did not want to shut down due to weather. He's like, let's keep shooting until finally it got so bad shooting one day that they go back to the hotel, and Christopher Nolan says, hey, maybe we could get a couple of inserts in the parking lot. So they're out in the parking lot because he's like, and I totally agree with this. It's like the Glengarry Glen Ross thing. Always be closing, always be filming. Always just always get something on film in the camera,
Yeah.
Getty is examining Lois, and Murph comes in and he says,
It's bad. They cannot stay here.
Which to me means they're going to die.
Yeah.
Tars is having trouble getting Kip to boot up.
Tars, what's taking so long?
Professor, I am having trouble completing the boot up.
I don't understand.
And at that moment, the I don't understand when he can't get Kip to fire up is the moment that I think the first time I saw the movie, I went, something's wrong. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's not adding up right here.
Yeah.
We got the weird speech from Dr. Mann about kids and stuff and who you see when you die. And then, it's just like, it's like all the little hints are kind of coming together now.
It's funny. When I left Earth, I thought I was prepared to die. The truth is, I never really considered the possibility that my planet wasn't the one.
Which is the point that you were making.
Yep.
And then he reaches up and pulls that little transmitter off of Coop's helmet. And Coop turns around totally shocked. And out of nowhere, Dr. Mann just pushes him off a cliff.
This is the one thing that he didn't plan on, right? I think Mann didn't expect someone like Cooper to show up. I think he would have gotten the best of just about any scientist that tried to be there. But Coop is not decidedly a scientist in the way that Mann is used to. And Mann, I imagine, maybe not the most experienced with physical violence or whatever. Because what he does isn't that extreme or well planned out to be successful. He's taking a chance it'll be successful. And just like his calculations to land on this planet, they were not.
Well, one thing that arrogant people tend to include in their calculations or not include is their own arrogance.
Yeah.
Like,
true.
I think he just went, well, killing Cooper will be easy.
Yeah.
It's not really seeing like what it actually is like.
Or factoring in Cooper's survival instinct could be just as strong as his.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, with all the equipment they have, I think he could have come up with a much better way of killing Cooper than just pushing him,
Yeah.
Like they might not have guns, but I bet they have something that's a lot closer and more dangerous than just pushing the guy.
Right.
And right in this moment of total shock, and this is why the intercutting works so well, as we go back to the farm and Getty is now examining the kid.
Yeah.
And as he does, Tom enters.
What is this?
And now suddenly there are two stubborn, dangerous people because now Tom has become scary,
Yes. Yeah.
And then we go back to the planet, and so Nolan is keeping, rather than staying inside the scene to keep the tension high, he's intercutting to build tension.
Yeah. Murphy and Cooper are correlative for what's going on in their respective storylines in their times as we're watching it. You're absolutely right that Tom and Mann are essentially the correlative people in this situation because Tom is embittered by the loss of his child, as we saw earlier. So he's kind of turned on Murph, his dad, science, NASA, anybody, right? There's that sense of anger at it. And seeing even a doctor who's coming in to help your child. You don't even trust a doctor. You have that kind of anger. And it comes from a place of survival. I think you are the threat to my family. And in Mann, in his way, thinks, that what's going on here is a threat to him and what he needs to do to get back. And so you see both of them taking extreme measures in order to have their way, in essence.
I think we covered this in the last part, but I'm not sure, and I want to ask again: did Tom's first child die from the same thing that his wife and son are now getting sick from?
Yes, 100%. And what he says later on, because the mom died earlier as well, right? So what she died of, like this idea of being unable to help. Right. And I think that's all kind of coursing through Tom. And so this idea that his wife and his child might also succumb to this stuff. There's a misguided anger or misdirected anger here that he has about the whole situation,
But the thing to me, at least my feeling is the thing that is killing Lois and little Coop is connected to being on this farm. It's not just some random thing. And so if Tom watched his first child die, knew that staying on the farm was putting his family at continued risk for Lois and his other son to die, and forces, because there's that moment where Lois looks up to Tom and says, no, we don't have to worry about this cough. And then it's not as terrible as Dr. Mann, who's could be dooming the entire human race, but Tom is allowing his family to die because he won't leave this fucking farm.
Exactly. So in a microcosm, he is doing what man is doing, obviously in a bigger way, because, his universe is his family. And for man, he sees the whole planet as essentially, or the success of the future generations of humankind as his family. And so I think they're both selfishly caught up in their own anger, shame, frustration, embarrassment, what have you, and acting out in the ways that they act out to get what they want, in selfish ways. Because, in a lot of ways, the relationship with Tom and Lois is very much like, well, he's the man of the family. This is very much like old school. Yeah, old school, like, stuff I grew up with in Virginia, where the father and the husband is the one who leads the house. And so it's like, if he says you're not going, you're not going. And if he says his wife's not going, his wife's not going, right? It's that kind of thing. And so there are certain relationships like that. It certainly feels like Tom and Lois, that's what the relationship is here. Because she's willing to go along. She doesn't fight back. She doesn't push back. She doesn't tell him, no, what about our child? She doesn't push back. So it seems to give you the idea that he is very much ruling the roost there at the house, for better or worse. And his suspicion, I would say, just because we don't have a lot of information on Tom, Steve, so it's up to us to extrapolate what we think might be here. And I think it's that he's kind of turned on all of this stuff, and anyone trying to help, he just is suspicious of. And yes, he stayed on the farm, but he's also kind of fucked up mad that he stayed on the farm. So there's a lot of confusing feelings, I think, going through Tom that hasn't been dealt with in therapy to help him to pull out those feelings and look at them one by one and figure out what his feeling truly is about all of those feelings, and get him back to center to understand what's going on here a little more clearly. There's just a lot of conflicting pain and anger and frustration going on for him. And so he's lashing out in this way, and the only thing he can control is his family and what happens to his family in his mind. He thinks that,
It's funny. One could interpret Interstellar as a commentary on the problematic nature of male hegemony, because we got Professor Brand, who has made a decision about the whole human race without telling them, because he's that level of father knows best. We have the remarkable Dr. Mann, who puts the entire weight of the human race on basically his own survival. And then we have Tom, who's doggedly forcing his family to stay on a farm where they will probably die,
right?
Because he's stubborn, know. And the person who saves the universe is Murphy.
Is a woman. Exactly. 100%. Yes. Yep. And as I said before, I think there's a commentary that Nolan and maybe his brother are making, about their situation, about their own selves, their own lives, and their maybe guilt they feel as men who've pursued certain things at a possible sacrifice of the relationship with their family or their children. There's just something about that bubbling under the surface. And the fact that it's Murph who saves everybody, I think kind of reinforces that, as you were just alluding to.
I will just say, and I don't know if I'll leave this in, that I think men and women are equally capable of doing great and terrible things. But if you look at the most terrible things ever to happen on the planet Earth, almost all of them are done by men.
Yes.
That's, like the record's real clear on who did. Now, that part of that, of course, is that the men had the power to do the great, terrible things. But,
sure.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah, how many? Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. How many genocides have been led by women? Like, really show me the history of that. Right, exactly.
I mean, there's Madame Defarge, or what her name was, who was knitting at the guillotine and very happy to watch a whole bunch of French nobles executed. You know, like there certainly are characters in, I'm sure if you looked at Mao, I'm sure if you looked at Stalin, there, you could find some women who are involved.
Yeah.
But the big stuff is done by men.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if you went and broke it down historically, you could look at how many queens presided over the murder and death of people from other nations as they, you know, pushed the empire. There's certainly cases to be made, I guess, to a degree. But, you know, I think for the general purposes here, it's very clear, you know, that's one side over the other.
Yeah, the big ones, it's real clear.
Yeah, the big ones. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm sorry. I can't let you leave with that ship. We're gonna need it to complete the mission. Once the others realize what this place isn't, we cannot survive here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And as he's saying, I'm sorry, he's kicking his hands with the ice spikes on his boots. I think Matt Damon is so good I think he is sorry. Like, I mean, I think that he genuinely feels terrible that I have to do this horrible thing to you.
Yeah.
But I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
And then Coop uses those, you know, arm thruster things that we were introduced to just a few minutes before to shoot up at him. And then they both slide down this hillside together. Back at the house, Getty says very strongly to Tom,
"They can't stay here anymore.
You have to leave right now."
I mean, he is coming at him as a doctor with righteous indignation, ready to save a life. And again, it's like man pushing Cooper off the cliff. Out of nowhere, Tom punches him in the face.
Let me make something abundantly clear. You have a responsibility. Jesus.
The reaction from the kid at seeing his dad hit this guy is it's a perfect reaction.
In a lot of ways, Tom has lost his man. In a lot of ways.
Dad didn't raise you to be this dumb, Tom.
Dad didn't raise me. Grandpa did, and he's buried out back with Mom and Jesse.
That's the flag that he says Jesse, right? That's the flag.
I tried to do my duty, Cooper, but I knew the day that I arrived here that this place had nothing. And I resisted the temptation for years. But I knew that if I just pressed that button, then somebody would come and save me.
You fucking coward.
Yes.
And he stands up and saying yes.
Yes.
He advances on him and attacks.
Yes.
It's so bizarre and it's so good, I think.
And I love it because it shows you, here's Cooper, who is an incredibly intelligent, accomplished pilot. And I would argue now accomplished. And here's an incredibly intelligent, accomplished man.
Yeah.
And they're two dudes fighting on a fucking ice tundra on some planet. Like, it's so childish that it gets reduced to two dudes fighting each other on the, like, even here, even in this situation, they cannot rely on their intelligence. They resort, well, at least man does, to violence, and Cooper to fighting back. You know, it just shows you a little bit of the infantilism of men sometimes in these situations.
Well, and speaking of infantilism, one of the things Nolan wanted to do, you know, because this is a choreographed fight scene and they had to practice it all the ways that you practice fight scenes. But he was like, I don't want either of these guys to be particularly good fighters.
Yes.
You know, like the last time we were on this ice shelf was in Batman Begins, where we have excellent, you know, choreography where these are expert fighters. And here it's like, these are just two dudes rolling around in their spacesuits, you know?
Yeah. It's great.
The other thing is that this hurt. You know, like they're fighting on ice. Like they have some padding inside the suits, but as they're rolling around, there are occasionally avalanches. Ice, when it breaks, can be sharp and it's poking them and they're falling on it. And it's like, this was not fun for them. Back at the house, Murph is begging with Tom.
Listen, if you're not gonna go, let your family go. Just save your family.
We go live underground with you? Pray that Daddy comes to save us.
This is such a brother-sister fight, you know?
Dad's not coming back. He never was coming back. It's up to me.
You're gonna save everybody. His dad couldn't do it.
Dad didn't even try! Dad just abandoned us! He left us here to die.
It still hurts me to hear it, knowing that I know that's not true and she doesn't.
But they're both damaged by loss.
Yeah.
One chooses to turn that pain into trying to save humanity. The other chooses to go inward and feel bitter and hateful and angry and resentful. There's the two different approaches.
Nobody's going with you.
You gonna wait for your next kid to die?
And I think Casey Affleck in this moment is scary as fuck.
Yes.
Like, I'm not sure that he's not about to hit her. I don't know what he's going to do.
100%. If she sticks around or says one more thing, I think you would have hit her. And listen, brother, male, female things, of course, right? But brother-sister stuff, brother-sisters hit each other. You know that. So like, I would not be surprised if she had said one more thing, if he had like just unleashed. I don't mean like he did with what's his face, but I think he would have got up into her face and even pushed her or something like that, you know?
Well, and like I said, I think, Tom is very much an iceberg of a character. We have very, very little that we see that we have to deduce all the other stuff, but I'm not sure he doesn't hit Lois or the kid.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Ever since
know.
Jesse died, I would say that's very possible. 100%.
Well, that look over to him when they talk about the, earlier, it could be a woman that's scared of her husband.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
But he doesn't hit her. He says, "Get out and don't come back."
Yeah, like real quietly under his breath, like he's trying to control himself. Yeah.
And then back with Cooper and Dr. Mann, and now he started headbutting him in the, the glass shield.
Amazing.
And Cooper at least still has the calm mind to say,
Dr. Mann, there's a 50-50 chance you're gonna kill yourself. Those are the best thoughts I've had in years.
Which is sad and funny and a whole bunch of things. And then, of course, he does crack Cooper's faceplate. We hear the gas. He immediately starts gasping. I mean, everything that happens now with Cooper essentially dying in front of him with Dr. Mann is so crazy and so upsetting.
Don't judge me, Cooper. You were never tested like I was. Human have been.
Even in his, how can I say this? Even in his sacrifice, he has to, even in his analysis of the situation, he has to self-aggrandize himself. Few men have been tested as I have. It's that kind of, he has to make it so much bigger than it actually is for his own arrogant intelligence,
Well, and that he has to, he wants to get the approval and sympathy of the dude he's murdering.
Exactly. You have to understand why I'm doing this. Yes. I'm not a bad person. I'm just, you're making me do this. Yeah. Exactly.
You're feeling it, aren't you? The survival instinct. That's what drove me. It's what drives all of us. And it's what's gonna save us. Because I'm gonna save all of us. For you, Cooper.
It is so insane.
Yeah.
And then I think this is a brilliant choice, is that he's looking at him and watching him die, and then he turns away and says,
I'm sorry, I can't watch you go through this. I'm sorry. I thought I could, but I can't.
There is a lot of I thought I could in this character.
Yes. Right. And he is, as Cooper said so well, he is a coward. He is a coward. Yeah. For all his brains and intelligence, he's a fucking coward. Yeah.
Well, and a delusional one, because at each stage he is chickened out.
Yes.
He chickened out about not sending he chickened out when he sent the fake data. He chickened out when he rigged the thing to blow up. He chickened out when he couldn't. He had this vision in his head. I will kill Cooper, but I will honor him and his death by watching him die. That's the honorable thing to do. And then he chickened out on that. And yet he still holds in his head that he will be brave enough and strong enough to save the human race.
Yeah.
It's like, no, what you should have learned is you're a fucking coward, and that you're going to continue to do the same choices over and over and over again to save your own ass.
Yeah.
And then while Cooper is gasping, he says,
I'm here for you. Just listen to my voice, Cooper. You're not alone.
I'm like, yeah, that's just what I want while I die. Just listen to the voice of the guy who killed me.
It's almost adding more torture. It's almost like, what's the scene in Saving Private Ryan when Goldberg gets killed by the German and he's like shushing him as he slides the knife into his heart? It's almost like that. he thinks he's doing something nice by going, it's okay, you're going to die soon, you're going to die, it's okay. Like it's a really whacked out way to approach killing someone, and man just walking Cooper into his death as if he's holding his hand to help soothe him on this journey, I think is incredibly insane.
Well, because he's a good man, because Caesar is a good man, you know, or Brutus is a good man, you know, like he has that, he has to hold that to himself, and a good man wouldn't let a man die alone. That would be terrible.
Do you see your children? They're right there with you. Did Professor Brent tell you that poem before you left?
And I'm like, oh, the fucking poem. Oh, God damn this poem. And he starts to go into "Do Not Go Gentle" into that good night. And I'm just like, this is the worst death ever. To have to listen to your murderer read this or say this fucking poem. Oh, my God. It's a great poem. No disrespect to the great Dylan Thomas, but...
no disrespect. But.
No disrespect.
But just like the science that's being used by these scientists, these flawed scientists, this poem is beautiful, but it's being used by flawed people in a way. Yeah.
And now we're intercutting Murphy driving through the town with Cooper crawling towards that little device that got pulled off of his head. Coop gets to it, and the moment that he gets to it is the moment that Murphy turns around. Mm-hmm. So again, they're linked across time and space. Yeah. Coop pulls off his glove, puts in the transmitter, and yells, "Help." And Brand hears him on the radio. Dr. Brand goes right into action, jumps onto the ship. They're flying super fast to get there.
Cooper, we're coming. Hang in there. Don't talk. Try to breathe as little as possible. We're almost there.
Try to breathe as little as possible is a very difficult instruction as you're suffocating from ammonia, you know? And while this is happening, racing to get Cooper, Murphy has come to a decision. She's driven out into the cornfield with a can of gasoline and a torch, and we realize that she is going to light Tom's field on fire.
Yeah.
This, I believe, is the number one we did not follow science thing in the entire movie. And the reason is that green corn does not burn.
Oh,
you can't. Only dry corn stalks could burn. This is all green corn, and they had to. I mean, they literally had to get a ton of gasoline to burn some of these fields.
Right,
and they had the conversation, and Christopher Nolan, as most directors would, said, "This green corn does burn." And the ship comes flying in super fast. Obviously, this is the reckless driving kind of moment. Brand jumps out before they've even landed. Runs over to Coop, opens up his faceplate, gives him something to breathe, gets Coop on the ship, and she says,
"I'm sorry."
What?
Man, it's lying.
Romilly has got Kip turned on and is looking at it and says, "This data makes no sense." And now I've got another oh shit that's sort of building up.
Romilly, do you read me? Romilly!
Stop back, Professor! Stop back!
And suddenly the station explodes.
Yeah.
And then man gets to the other ship, gets in, it's taking off. Cooper and Brand fly over where the explosion is and see TARS come running out of that explosion, which is great.
Romilly did not survive. I could not save him.
Which is such a bummer because I like Romilly so much.
Yep. Listen, the criticism here I think is valid. It's an underwritten character. It's a character that should have much more going on. It's frustrating to see yet another black character in sci-fi not getting more of the depth that we got with Brand, that we got with Cooper, even that we got with Man. You know, I would argue that we have more time with Matt Damon in this film than we do with Romilly in terms of understanding the motivations and all of that. So it's a frustrating thing. And I wish we had gotten more, because what he does with that limited screen time makes you care about this character so well. But again, we see a black character being sacrificed so all these other white characters can survive, obviously other than Man. But so it would have been nice to see a little more depth and complexity. I don't mind a black character dying in service of the story. It's just when you have to do that, I think you have to flesh out the characters more. There's a responsibility to do that, and because of the history of that in sci-fi specifically, you know.
Yeah, to me, it's always like it's the fact that we don't have the opposite. It's not I think Romilly is a really well-written character, is a great actor. I care a lot about him. I think it's operating beautifully in the film. So that's
Right.
not a problem. Sometimes when the character is just a cliche, then it's detracting from the film.
Yeah.
I don't find that to be the case here. It's
No.
that there are not a lot of science fiction films where an African-American actor is the star. You know, if we had a whole bunch of sci-fi movies where they were the star, then this trope wouldn't bother me as much.
Right.
And now we're on the ship chasing after Man, who is heading up to the Endurance.
If he takes control of that ship, we're dead.
He'd ruin us?
He is ruining us.
That is a great, great moment.
Yeah. I mean, here's Brand getting betrayed by yet another member of this crew, right? Because, I mean, her father and now Man, in like within minutes, she is finding out the betrayal of this whole situation. I do think that's another thing to ding the film for, is there should have been more with Brandon Cooper discussing the betrayals and what was going on here and all that, but there's no time because from this point forward, we're just speeding towards the ending. But I would have been nice to have a little bit more of like the come down and be like, what the fuck? How are you, Brand? And Brand being like screwed up by the whole thing, you know, that what have you. But yeah.
I think with Professor Brand, I can believe that while he did betray everybody and lie to everybody, he genuinely believed that he was doing it for the right reasons. From his worldview, it made sense. Right. You cannot say that about Dr. Man. Dr. Man, no, you know, like this is a a betrayal entirely to save his own skin. He might rationalize a bunch of stuff, but we know it's bullshit, and he knows it's bullshit. You know,
100%, 100%.
And what's so crazy about all the parallels is as they're chasing after Dr. Man to try to get back into their home, the Endurance, Murphy is guiding Lois and the kid out of their home and trying to get away from their home before the scary man, in that case, Tom, shows up.
Yeah.
And they're trying to contact Dr. Man on the radio. He's not responding. And we say,
He doesn't know the Endurance docking procedure.
Well, the autopilot does.
Not since TARS disabled it.
Nice. What's your trust setting, TARS?
Lower than yours, apparently.
which I love.
Yeah.
The growing relationship between Cooper and TARS is just a lot of fun. And now Man is coming into position to dock. He's getting closer. The music is great. There's a lot of things in the score where you hear kind of like things that remind you of ticking clocks, rhythmic things going on. And again, Hans Zimmer loves playing with things or playing with instruments in ways that they are not meant to be played with. So some of these sounds are taking a violin, and he has the musicians not playing them with a bow, but with little pencils that they're tapping on the strings with pencils to get that sort of dun, dun, dun kind of sound. And then he also, there's times where he had the clarinetists take the reed out of the clarinet and just blow with air through the clarinet to get this sound. Like he's just playing with things.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly experimental way to make a film score.
Yeah. It's like when you hear George Martin and the Beatles talking about how they composed some of those later albums in the studio. That was fascinating.
Auto docking sequence withheld.
Override.
Unauthorized.
Override.
Unauthorized.
He's moving in towards the Endurance, gets to the airlock, gets almost in position, and the little grabber things or whatever all can't quite grab on. So he's partially docked, but not completely.
There's something really great about seeing that, Steve, because it fills you with dread. Now, you may not, you don't like what Dr. Man has done, but seeing these things be unable to click and hook on in silence, I think is amazing, because it adds this sense of like, oh no, like what's going to happen here? And there's almost a desperation to the movement of these things as they try to lock in. The fact that they can't and keep trying shows gives you a little bit of like subconscious feeling of dread and frustration, of what's happening.
Dr. Man, do not, I repeat, do not open the hatch. I repeat, do not open the hatch. If you open the hatch, the airlock will depressurize.
Hatch lockout. Disengaged.
And of course, we see him opening up the thing and going into the airlock.
What happens if he blows the airlock?
Nothing good.
Okay, pull back. Retro thrusters, everything we've got, Case. Back.
So now the Ranger is desperately trying to get away from the Endurance. A moment before, we were chasing him. The tension, I think, in the sequence from the moment that he leaves with Dr. Mann and gets pushed down that cliff all the way through is just building and building and building.
You almost want Brand to say, "We're not going to make it, are we?"
Yeah.
Little Rathacon line would be great there. Because they're trying to pull away knowing something's bad's going to happen here.
And Dr. Mann is rushing into the airlock, and he is going with those grabbers happening. He is overriding every single safety feature he can in order to do something which might very well destroy the ship. And somehow they override the radio thing, so now he can hear the voice, Brand's voice again.
Do not open the inner hatch. I repeat, do not.
Brand? I don't know what he said to you, but I am taking command of the Endurance.
Dr. Mann, listen to me.
This is not about my life or Cooper's life. This is about all mankind. There is a moment.
And then he's blown out, explosively blown out of the hatch.
Dude, I swear the construction of this scene is amazing. Just building up the tension, building up the stress, and then having this moment where Brand uses her knowledge or whatever to override the system so she can talk on the mic. And it's the last kind of attempt to stop him and to have him keep gaslighting all the way to the end so that there is no sympathy. There is no moment where he goes like, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe you're right. Maybe I shouldn't. So there'd be a little bit of sympathy if he pulled back and then it exploded. But the fact that he is lying through his teeth over and doing this and then poof, it's gone. It's so shocking and jarring. It's brilliant, man. It's so brilliant.
What's interesting about it is it's very much like Rachel's death in Dark Knight because she dies mid-sentence talking to Harvey Dent.
Right.
Except the emotions are completely different. You know, like technically there's a similarity, but emotionally it's because he is, I mean, the remarkable Dr. Mann is in a blind fucking panic at this moment. I mean, he is just and still spouting bullshit to justify what he's doing. And what's interesting too, you almost have two moments because we have the moment with Dr. Mann where we see him blown out of the airlock and the ship starts crashing into the Endurance.
Yeah.
But then we have the moment with our guys in the lander when they see the explosion.
Yeah. You know? Yeah.
And immediately Cooper floors it.
Cooper, there's no point in using our fuel to chase...
Analyze the Endurance's spin.
Cooper, what are you doing?
Docking.
And it's like, it's out of the frying pan into the fire over and over and over again in this sequence. It's just like, and what I love about it too is there's nothing of the classic action sequence about this. The fight scene with Dr. Mann was, two guys, it wasn't jump kicks and flips and exciting fighting. All of this is just the actual tension and thrill of what they're trying to do, not grand spectacle like in a Marvel movie.
Yeah. And, him wanting to dock, that's just what Cooper is. Cooper is a guy who is willing to go into the fray, right? And I think that's one of the things that destroyed him after the pilot stuff didn't work out is that there's something missing in his life. He did what he needed to do, brought up the kids, fed them, housed them, became a farmer. But this instinct to be out there and be in the battle, it is ingrained in him. And so obviously none of them survive without Cooper being the pilot in this situation, especially Brand, right? So to see what he does there, I think is so heroic versus what Dr. Mann does, right? There's the two differences in how you can be a hero.
I think you're 100% right. And it is very clear that Cooper is at his best when the chips are down and he has to make split-second decisions. That is which is, of course, what the robot took away from him when he had the crash, is that he couldn't make the split-second decision he needed to. I mean, all the way back to chasing the drone through the cornfield, Cooper is a man of action. That's who he is. And we see the Endurance is just spinning like crazy. I think it's 68 revolutions per minute. And they're going to fly up to it and match the spin, which means that they're going to be spinning ridiculously fast.
Endurance rotation is 68 RPM.
Okay, get ready to match our spin with the retro thrusters.
It's not possible.
No, it's necessary.
That is great. That is full Captain Kirk is what that line is. Yeah.
I love it.
And then just to add more tension to this, the Endurance is hitting the stratosphere and it doesn't have any heat shielding or anything. So the Endurance is going to burn up. And everything, I think, is magnified by this is the future of the human race. Right?
Yeah.
Cooper, we are lined up. Initiating spin.
And I love that there's the camera tilt just as they're doing this, which gives you the real feeling of the G's that they're pulling.
Yeah.
And also the moment I think is beautifully done where it seems clear to me that Brand passes out from the high G's.
Yes.
Because of the way her arm just suddenly floats up.
Yeah.
They're getting closer, almost there, and Cooper doesn't pass out. And they make it, they lock in, we start to ease up the spinning. Brand wakes up, we push this thing out of orbit. We kill the main engines and we're okay. And there's this moment of quiet and then Brand starts laughing.
I love this laugh. I can say something. I haven't said it yet, I don't think, but I think she deserved the Oscar more for this performance than she did for Les Miserables. No offense to anybody who likes her as Fantine in Les Miserables. I get it. She did a great performance there, but there's so much that Anne is doing here that I think is so raw and so honest and so real. And this moment of like, how many times do you see a film where the person laughs from that nervous, awkward place of like, Jesus Christ, we survived type thing. And it's so believable when she does her laugh. It's a great tension breaker before we're about to go into more tension, but it's a great tension breaker in the moment because all of us who've witnessed it, who are in the theater for the first time, can take a breath as well with her and laugh about what we've witnessed because Nolan has us in his grips with this scene.
I love the line.
Okay. And for our next trick.
And what's so great about the moment is that the laughing, I'm laughing with them, and then I started crying. And it's like, and it's not that it's a emotional moment.
Right.
It's the catharsis of how incredible this whole sequence was to get. I'm having that same emotional release that the characters are having. You know, and then the response to, and now for our next trick is,
You don't have to be good. We're heading into Gargantua's pool.
so it's again out of the frying pan.
Yep.
We go into the Endurance and things are just completely wrecked. And then the subject comes of like, obviously we don't want to slip into the black hole, but Cooper, who I think already knows what the plan is going to be.
Shall I use main engines?
No. We'll let it slide as far as we can.
By the way, for some of the zero-G stuff, they have all sorts of ways of doing it. We've already said that they have the ship on a gimbal, but they also built this set both vertically and horizontally. So there is a version of the set where the ground is on the bottom, and there is a completely identical version of the exact same set that's vertical. So the ground is on the side, so they can film all that stuff to get some of the zero-G stuff.
Inventive.
They also, for the zero-G, had a rig where essentially, so you know what a big dolly looks like on a film set, and the dolly might have a boom arm, so you can boom the camera around in all sorts of ways. Well, they basically took that and put two big steel poles on the boom arm that latched on to the spacesuits of people so they could dolly around actors floating in space. Which, if you think about it, this like takes tremendous core strength to hold your body in a position as you're being swung around by this dolly by your waist. It sounds, and it also sounds like Christopher Nolan really liked to be running the equipment when he had an actor on the dolly or whatever they called it.
No surprise.
Give it to me.
It's good news, it's bad news, Cooper.
Yeah, I've heard that one, Tars. Give it to me straight.
But then we don't hear their conversation.
The navigational hub has been completely destroyed. We don't have enough life support to make it back to Earth, but I think we can scratch our way to Edmund's planet.
What about fuel?
Not enough. But I have a plan.
And this is why he didn't pull away from Gargantua before. You're going to get we're going to use that slingshot again to launch us towards Edmund's planet.
What about the time slippage?
Oh, neither one of us have time to worry about relativity right now, Dr. Brand.
And it's like the moment with Romilly before. She very tenderly touches his helmet and says,
I'm sorry, Cooper.
Like, despite the conflicts they've had and being an odd relationship, it's real genuine here.
Yeah.
And then we lay out more of the plan. Once we do the slingshot, We use the Lander 1 and the Ranger as rocket boosters to push us out of the black hole's gravity.
Once Lander 1 is spent, TARS will detach and get
sucked right into that black hole.
Why does TARS have to detach?
Oh, we have to shed the weight to escape the gravity.
Newton's third law. The only way humans have ever figured out of getting somewhere is to leave something behind.
It's Newton's third law of motion, which is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Probably in junior high, you probably had the examples of how this works. One of is you let the air out of a balloon and the balloon flies away. You said, same way a rocket works, same reason you feel recoil when you fire a gun, same method that we use to push off a wall in the pool. You push in one direction, it sends you the other direction.
Cooper, you can't ask TARS to do this for us.
He's a robot. See, I don't have to ask him to do anything.
Cooper, you asshole.
Which, of course, Cooper knows that he's going to,
Right.
Incredible shot of that tiny Endurance flying in front of the giant black hole. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Lander 1, prepare to detach. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark.
Detach!
Goodbye, TARS.
Goodbye, Dr. Brent. See you on the other side, Coop.
See you there, Slick!
See you on the other side is I will see you in the black hole. That's the other
bit
side.
of a tell. Yeah.
And then in just this moment of relief that the plan seems to be working.
Ranger 2, prepare to detach.
What? No!
It's so her shock and the pain of it, because what he's doing is saving her life.
Yes. Sacrificing himself.
But he is also, she will now be the only person in the galaxy.
Right.
She will be completely alone,
Yeah.
It's so brutal.
Cooper!
3.
Cooper, what are you doing?
Newton's third law. You gotta leave something behind.
You told me we had enough resources for both of us.
We agreed, Amelia. 90%.
It's a great line. Great line to come back on that and call back on it.
And then he drops away and falls towards the black hole.
Now, I would add that this is the third time in the movie that we witness someone lying to Brandt, who's in a position of somewhat power.
Great point.
Right? But in this case, it is done to elevate her as opposed to hide the truth from her in a negative way. This because he knows that Brandt would have fought him the whole time with this. And so this is being done so that she can be the one. Because I would argue, she is the best of them in a lot of ways. And so him sacrificing, and she has to because of her knowledge and scientific and all that kind of stuff, she's the one that has to survive. And Coop is willing to do this. And listen, I don't know if Coop knows he's going to die. I don't know if Coop knows what's going to happen. But he knows that Brandt has to get out of here one way or another. And so he's willing to sacrifice himself and go into the unknown of this black hole in order to make that happen.
It's really, first of all, I think it's really interesting examining these three men that lied to Brandt.
Yeah.
Because the motivations are all very different. Like Professor Brandt lies to the whole world because in his mind, it is the only way to save this human species, although not save those people.
Right.
Dr. Mann lies because he's a fucking coward and he has rationalized some ways in which his life is the most important thing to preserve.
Yeah.
Cooper lies in order to sacrifice his life to save her.
Right.
And I agree 100%. The most important person to be on Edmund's planet is Dr. Brandt. She's the scientist,
All three of them are sacrificing for future of humanity. Cooper is the only one sacrificing for the current humanity as well as the future.
That's a good point too.
Right?
Yeah.
As well as the future. And that's the difference, which is why his sacrifice is the better of the three.
I really wonder if probably someone brought this up. Was this a conversation of, that's three men in a row that have lied to Dr. Brandt? Because it might be a thing that this is the kind of thing you catch watching a movie many times. And sometimes it's a thing that maybe you miss when you're working so hard to make a movie,
Yeah.
Charles, do you read me? It's all blackness. Charles, do you read me? Over.
And then we start to see these sparkles, which look, they're all these sort of visual echoes of the dust in Murph's room and the lines of light and all these things we're seeing these echoes of. He gets hit with glowing sparks, which I am certain, I know that they looked at the right stuff when they made this. And there's
right.
the sequence where John Glenn has all
Yeah.
the glowing lights. I'm sure they were thinking of that when they did this. And we're still going to intercut. We're still intercutting back to Earth, and Tom is fighting the fire in his cornfield. Murphy is up in the room, and she's looking at the broken lander, and that is the moment that Cooper has to eject from his ship as the ship falls apart. And so again, these echoes of now broken Ranger in the background of Cooper and Murphy with the broken lander in her room.
Yeah.
He's shivering in the cold and moaning, and it's really scary as he's just kind of floating through the emptiness of space, and he looks down and he sees something below him, and he's falling towards it faster and faster, and we don't understand what it is, and it's really scary. And then he goes through it and into this grid of lights all around him. And then he is in this incredibly strange space, which is what they call the Tesseract, which is it's like grids and things are stretched and there's multiple angles. And I think very quickly, because the color scheme in Murphy's bedroom was so recognizable that we immediately connected that we're somehow back at the bedroom in some weird way.
Yeah.
And Cooper's, gone from a panic. He's gone through as much, I don't know how much more his adrenaline can take, but it takes him a while to sort of adjust. He's no gravity, floating in this bizarre space. He looks through the bookshelf, sees into the room, and he pushes on these books and they don't move. And then he starts hitting them. And he pushes a book through that falls. And in this moment, we realize Cooper is the ghost.
No. Murph!
And I have to say, this is the moment where people, I believe, either hate or love the film. Right? And for me, I thought this was great. And I know there are people out there who don't think this is great. But there's just something, I think the film earns this step out onto the edge of the cliff. And it's almost like in Indiana Jones and Last Crusade when he has to cross that bridge to go to see the knight, that he throws the dust out there, right? To see the bridge. So it's kind of like that. Nolan is essentially throwing the dust out there, and it's up to us if we want to walk across this bridge once he presents it. And to me, I wanted to walk across the bridge. I loved it. I thought it was great and ballsy and gutsy and what an artist does. And yes, some people might think it's cheesy or really simple, but this is the kind of gutsiness within art that I appreciate. Like, he's going out there because he is talking about love, and he's unashamedly talking about love and how important and powerful it can be. And if we're going to survive as a species into the future, love, not hate, will be the reason we survive. Love was what's going to motivate us to overcome and figure out and pound on the door of science until we get the thing right. And so I kind of love this moment in so many ways, especially when he sees her. The reaction is so brutal and painful, man.
Part of it is McConaughey's performance is so great.
Yes.
And real and emotional.
God, yes.
I think this could be in the hands of a lesser filmmaker, just a Deus Ex Machina. Oh, he saves himself, It's a very circular kind of movie. But the thing is, we just came off the most ridiculous tension-building action sequence. You know what I mean? Like, we're already in a great movie. So to me, it doesn't, I don't know if I'll keep this in, but the thing that I would see over and over again when I was teaching film schools is the movie about the writer who has writer's block because he can't come up with the movie about that he needs to shoot because he's in film school. And eventually at the end of the movie, he decides to make a movie about his writer's block. And that is the movie we are watching.
Oh my God.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. And that is that circular thing that feels very clever to a 19-year-old film student, but doesn't seem very clever to the 50-year-old film teacher who's seen it a million times. And so there is a tendency when you have a sort of circular thing that it's easy to judge it. But in this particular case, no notes for me. I think this worked.
I agree.
And again, part of it, as I said, it's Matthew McConaughey seeing young Murphy and trying everything he can to reach her and talk to her and being separated by these bookshelves and not being able to cross the divide is really powerful.
Yeah.
let me tell you a little bit about how they came up with this design.
Okay.
So the first thing about it is like what they were thinking about was what does it look like for a three-dimensional person who cannot see the dimension of time make the movement of time visible. So I'm going to try to describe this conceptually and see if I can make it make sense. But so if you imagined that there is a one-dimensional person, they're just a dot, and that for them, time is the second dimension. So they don't know that they're moving through time, but they are actually moving through time. They can't see it because they can only see one dimension. Well, they would be stretched into a line if you watched them over time. If you took a two-dimensional object, which is a line, and they can't see the other dimension, and you moved them along, they would become a plane. They would extend. So then the question is, if you extended a three-dimensional object over the dimension that they can't see, it would stretch out and it would extrude. So what they did was they first of all, they took every single object that's in Murph's room and they digitally mapped it so that they created digital versions of all these things. And then they started playing with the bed and the books and the shelves and the chairs and stretching them. And it was funny too, like the way they described it, and I totally know this, I'm sure you've had this too, is you've got a whole bunch of problems you got to solve for whatever your project is. And one of them is the hardest. And you keep going like, okay, we really got to start working on the Tesseract. Maybe we'll work on that tomorrow. So they kept abandoning it and switching over to other things because they had all these kind of stretched objects, but they couldn't really figure out how to make it work. And finally, they went back sort of to their original idea, which is multiple versions of all of the stretched objects in a grid that expand over space with like kind of mirror effects that create repetitions and stuff. And what's crazy to me, they built it all digitally. They also built it all real. Like this is, I mean, not extended out into infinity, but there was a real giant hanging set of all these stretched beds and books and things layered on top of each other for Matthew McConaughey to float around in. And one of the hard things is lighting it because they have walls everywhere blocking everything. So how do you light it? And what's interesting is like in the basic rules of lighting is you have a light source. So like you're looking at me right now, you can see the window behind me. If we were lighting this scene, then you would set up lights so they look like they're coming from the real sources, right? So it's coming from the sun or it's coming from a computer monitor or whatever it is. Well, in sci-fi movies where they're crazy sci-fi movies, they kind of go, we don't really care. You know, we can have the light come from wherever we want. In this Christopher Nolan sci-fi movie, it was still really important that the light feel like sunlight that's coming into the room, which it really does. So it's very, very difficult to light. And so even in this completely bizarre, you know, fifth dimensional world, we're still following the rules of lighting.
Yeah.
So he starts to explore, he moves around, realizes that he can look down through the floor into the downstairs and see young Murph there. And we have these multiple time zones coming on because we have the scenes with young Murph, we have the scenes with Jessica Chastain, and then we have whatever time and space Matthew McConaughey's in. And we come to the scene, which it was upsetting scene at the first time, having Cooper watch himself say goodbye to Murphy while she begs him to stay.
If you're leaving, just go.
No, don't go. Don't go, you idiot. Don't go!
We see the older Murphy put the watch back on the shelf. That's going to be really, really critical. And we also realize that he has tapped out the Morse code for stay.
Yeah.
That in fact, that he is the ghost telling himself to stay through her, and he is the person not listening.
It's such a great moment because you're left with a lot of feelings. Because what he did here by saving Brand, he did actually save humanity, right? And then eventually, of course, Cooper will too, Murph. And so you have that moment. But he's in that moment, he's caught up in the feeling of missing his daughter, missing the years of his daughter, and he's not going to know if he's going to survive or not. Like, this is just in the moment. So he's yelling "stay" to himself and yelling for her to make him stay. And so it's just that energy of like, it's to me, if you've ever lost someone, I think this scene speaks volumes to you, because I think all of us, or a majority of us, when we lose someone, we're always like, oh, I should have done this, or I could have done this, or I should have spent more time with this or that. And, you know, it's all of that stuff that we kind of go through. And him in that moment, looking through it, so he can't change, no matter how much he yells, no matter what he does with the books, this has all already happened. So there's nothing he can do to change it. And I think that speaks volumes to anyone who's ever lost someone. It's like, oh, I should have done this, I could have done that. And you're almost yelling at the past version of yourself in those memories to do something different so you can spend more time with that person or be there for that person for whatever reason. And so it's all of that, you know. And so it's an interesting commentary on how we interpret the past and how we can have this suspension of disbelief that we think we can change the past if we think about it and focus on it hard enough. And yet we can't, you know. And so I think there's something about that that's really profound in seeing his reaction to it all, because it's from a place of love, you know. And whatever he did to attempt to save humanity, and by saving Brand, it's all irrelevant in this moment because it's Murph who he misses greatly. And I think he realizes that he left her in the wrong way, and he wishes he could go back and leave her in the right way.
Or not leave her. I mean,
or not leave her, right, yes, or not leave her, yes.
Because the big thing to me is it was useless. This sacrifice he made of not being able to see his family, it was doomed. Like Dr. Mann had sent false information. Miller's planet is useless. The ship is wrecked. There was him going on this mission and sacrificing all of his relationship with his kids.
Right.
Was worthless. You know?
But I also think he wouldn't have changed as a person, because there is an arc here for Cooper in the movie. And, you know, Cooper, as we said at the beginning in the first part of the show, he accepts this desire to go very quickly. He doesn't spend time talking to his kids and what should I do? He doesn't agonize over it. He buys into the mission because he has his own shit that he needs to work out, and he must do this. He's been called upon it, and he wants to do it. Regardless of what might happen in his relationship with Murphy and with Tom, he does not think about that as powerfully or strongly enough before saying yes, which is what I think was what angers Murph. If Murph had more time to accept the decision and he had told Murph the truth about it, it might have been a different movie, right? But this is the journey he goes on. So by the end, when he's here yelling this stuff, as you said, the whole thing was useless. You know, I think the Cooper we get rather at the end of the movie, who's much more appreciative, much more benevolent, much more caring, is the different Cooper than we had at the beginning of the movie, who's much more caught up in his own shit. Even when he sits down later on, when he sits down at that facsimile of the house, he knows he's got to do something else. He's got to go out there and take a more active part in humanity. And so I think there's something that has changed in him. You know, so it's the irony of him yelling at himself to not go. If he hadn't gone, he'd still be the same frustrated guy. Yep. And who knows how that relationship with Murph would have gone. You know, she might have grown to become embittered by him, or he embittered by them. You know, it's very possible.
By the way, I was never sure exactly where to bring this up. You know how you could go to a parent of two children and say, you know, who's your favorite? And it's like, oh, I don't have a favorite. You know, and when secretly maybe they do have a favorite. Right. Man, I honestly feel bad for Tom. Like his whole like Cooper's whole thing is, I have to get home to Murph. I'm worried about Murph. Right. You know, he doesn't really think about Tom at all. Like, oh, Tom will be fine, and Tom is clearly not fine. You know?
Right. Well, and that's the thing sometimes with male parents. They see their sons as, oh, they'll be able to handle it. It's the daughter that I need to spend extra time with. But I think in this situation, it's more a matter of that. I think she reminds him. Yes. And I think she reminds him of himself and his wife. Yeah.
And then we cut to older Murphy who's finally figured it out.
It was you. You were my ghost.
And then at that moment of her realizing that, we have another connection made, which is that we somehow hear Tars's voice.
Cooper. Come in, Cooper.
Tars?
Roger that.
You survived.
Somewhere in their fifth dimension, they saved us.
And Tars explains that they constructed this 3-dimensional space inside their 5th dimensional universe
Yeah.
so that we could understand it.
You've seen that time is represented here as a physical dimension. You have worked out that you can exert a force across space-time.
Which, two things about this. This is, again, the ultimate example of Tars is explaining this to us, the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing, I'm like, how does Tars know what he's doing or where he is? We don't see Tars. Like, how,
Right.
I don't understand how Tars knows what he knows, but it doesn't matter. And we also find out that he has all the important quantum data that we need to collect from inside the black hole, but he can't get it out.
I can do this. I can do this.
That's such complicated data to a child.
Not just any child.
And we suddenly, everything has now literally come full circle, which the big mystery is, how do we get the data out of the black hole? The big mystery is, what the hell is the ghost and what was going on in the room? And now we realize that being the ghost is what's going to allow them to solve the problem that Professor Brand could not solve.
Yeah.
Again, like the ticking clocks continue to be everywhere because Getty is out front. The fire in the cornfield is now out, which means that Tom, who was very scary the last time we saw him, is coming back. And then I think Tars says something really important as they're trying to figure out what to communicate and what he needs to tell Murphy. Tars says,
They didn't bring us here to change the past.
Say that again.
They didn't bring us here to change the past.
They didn't bring us here at all.
And then he asked for the coordinates for NASA, which by the way, if he actually wanted to not go, all he has to do is not share the coordinates that led them to find NASA.
Yep.
But in fact, that is exactly what he does next because he realizes he can't change the past.
Right.
And that the whole point of this is to change the future. Yeah.
So in the end, the trip isn't useless.
No. Yeah.
It's essential, that he went.
They didn't choose me, they chose her.
For what, Cooper?
And he starts laughing, at which point I start crying.
To save the world.
And it's that joy of discovery from McConaughey that's just so moving at this moment.
Yeah.
And now he's flying through the sort of infinite bedrooms. This was all difficult, by the way. And McConaughey and his stuntman both had to do a lot of work to figure out how to maneuver in this wire rig and around these shelves and all this stuff.
Wow.
It was all hard to do.
That's why I'm here. I'm gonna find a way to tell Murph, just like I found this moment.
How, Cooper?
The love, Tars, love. It's just like Brand said. My connection with Murph, it is quantifiable. It's the key.
And now we have to figure out how to tell them. And we look down and we see the watch, which Murphy had put down. And we realize that we can somehow, I don't know how one encodes through Morse code into the second hand of a watch from a tesseract in fifth dimensional space through waves of gravity across time. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but that is what they're going to do. And while they're doing that, Getty yells out that he can see Tom's car. And Murph says she's coming down. And it's simultaneity because they're feeding the binary code for Morse code or whatever into the watch.
Yeah.
Just as she is looking down at it and sees something going on, just as Tom has arrived back at the house and is looking pretty darn scary. And I love Topher Grace with just a tire iron. I think he has no chance against Tom, iron or not. And then she comes out and explains. She says, he came back. It was him all the time. I didn't know it was him. Dad's going to save us, which... For a character like Murph, who called him a son of a bitch and felt abandoned, Dad's going to save us is pretty cool.
I do think that Tom relents a little too easily here.
I agree.
Right? And I feel like Tom should have resisted harder. They should have had it out. And then maybe Tom has the breakdown. Do you know what I'm saying? Where all the pain that he's been holding on to because we've been so focused on Murph's pain of her father leaving. We haven't had time with Tom. Yet Tom was the one that was sending all the messages for all those years.
Yeah.
Right. And Tom was the one that Lois had to get to finally let him go, let his father go. So to have her come out and be like, he's going to save us, I think, and they're essentially kidnapping his family against his wishes. I think there should have been a longer scene here where Tom goes, what are you talking about? What is this, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes, and then he unleashes like all this anger and pain. And Murph listens for the first time to Tom's pain because she's been so caught up in her pain that she hasn't necessarily created space for Tom's. And this like brings them back together. And then we're on this thrust to the end of the movie. So I wish they had done that here because Casey's a great fucking actor. Why wouldn't you give him a great scene? Him and Jessica, why wouldn't you give him a great scene to do together. It would be great.
I couldn't agree more. I absolutely think, and it's what's funny is I was just saying how I don't think Tom is getting sufficient love from his dad. And I think that the movie, Tom doesn't get sufficient love from the movie. I mean, you know, we're in we got to wrap this thing up. This is a long movie. We're pushing towards the end, and but it's like, you know, there's one of the basic rules of screenwriting, particularly if you have a scene that isn't quite working, is you check in with your characters. What are they feeling? Well, Tom, they just are trying to kidnap his family essentially, and his cornfield, his life's work was just destroyed. He is really, really pissed. He should. We just don't deal with it. She comes out says this weird thing about Dad came back and he's going to save the world, and that's going to make Tom be like, "Oh, okay, cool." I agree. I feel like they definitely dropped the ball. We see her back at NASA at the lab. She's transcribing dots and dashes. She runs out into the main area, throws the papers into the workspace and yells, and then goes up to Getty and plants a big, and I think very surprising kiss on him, and he does not object.
No. He's very surprised, but also welcomes it, yes.
And now we're back to Coop, floating in the Tesseract.
Did it work?
I think it might have.
How do you know?
Because the bulk beams are closing the Tesseract.
I thought you get it yet, Tars. They're not beings. They're us.
He believes that this is the super evolved version of humanity. It's a little, okay, might be.
Tars doesn't buy it. He's like, humans can't do this shit.
He's like, no, but someday we've evolved into higher dimensions. Like, okay. And then everything gets light and there's flashing. And now we see the approaching Endurance looking reconstructed and perfect. And we go into the cockpit where we see Dr. Brand, and suddenly we realize we're on the other side of the moment of the handshake when they came through the wormhole.
Yeah.
And then we see his head floating past near Saturn, which to me is a total like Space Baby from 2001. Kind of
100%.
Moment here. And we see lights coming towards him from a distance, and then Cooper is waking up in a hospital bed.
Nice and easy, Mr. Cooper. Remember, you're no spring chicken anymore. Actually, you are 124 years old.
And he gets up, and then a great disorienting moment where he looks out the window at like a softball game being played, and then he looks up and sees, civilization above us. It's like, it's like a moment from Inception, where
100%.
Where the world is kind of wrapping around us.
Yeah.
And we realize that we are on Space Station Cooper.
Cooper Station. Well, nice you to name it after me.
And they laugh. Because
the nurse especially.
because it's not named after him. It's named after his daughter.
She'll be here in a couple weeks. She is far too old to be transferring from another station, but when she heard that you'd been found, well, this is Murphy Cooper we're talking about.
Yes, it is.
It's so moving.
And listen, I want to say one thing here. This is why it's important to cast correctly. This doctor has one fucking scene. One. But in that moment, when he says, well, we're talking about Murph Cooper here, you buy everything about the importance of Murph through the last few decades and the reverence that these people have for her because they've been told and they've seen all the things that she has done through her life. It's a really great moment. And, it's enough to instill in the audience all these years of exposition that we don't need to hear about because he gives it to you in this moment, who this actor is. It's really well done.
He's out of the hospital talking to this guy who apparently did a paper on him in high school.
Yeah. So when I made my suggestion to Miss Cooper, I was delighted to hear that she thought it was perfect.
And now we kind of feel like we're moving into kind of a museum space because we walk by this plaque dedicated to the brave men and women who gave their lives so we could begin again. And it lists Lazarus and Endurance, and Dr. Mann is clearly on there like they did. So whether or not his story, whether or not they even know what happened with Dr. Mann, we don't know. And they have that fucking Dylan Thomas poem on there too, which at this point I just hate.
Yeah, so good.
And then we essentially walk up to the old farmhouse, which they have reconstructed as like a museum exhibit. And that first image that we saw of Ellen Burstyn as old Murphy.
Well, my dad was a farmer, like everybody else back then.
We see that, these are actually the video kiosks of this exhibit on the history of Murphy Cooper.
Right. Yeah.
And we go inside and see more of these monitors.
She did confirm just how much she loved farming.
Oh, she did she?
I love that Murphy just wanted to fuck with her dad. One was like she's 100 and something years old. She saved the world.
Yeah.
But she does want to fuck with dad.
He'll get a kick out of this when he gets back. Yeah.
And the other thing we see is underneath a blue tarp is TARS deactivated.
Yeah, the machine we found under Saturn when we found you. Yes, its power source was shot, but we could get you another one if you want to.
Yes, please.
And he brings TARS back to life.
Honesty, new setting. 95%.
Confirmed. Additional customization.
Humor. 75%.
Confirmed. Auto self-destruct T-minus 10, 9.
Let's make that 60%.
And then I love that he said he switches it to 60%. And I think in Bill Irwin's voice, when he says
60% confirmed. Knock, knock.
You want 55?
And now, like he was before with Donald, he's sitting on the porch having a beer with TARS.
Is this really what it was like?
I was never this clean, Slick. I don't care much for this pretending we're back where we started.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love when he says that. Yeah.
Well, because I mean, he's not a farmer.
No.
I mean, this is like the work. It's not, and it's not even just going back to being a farmer. It's a fake farm.
Yes,
So you're just going to live
Even
on
more
a,
so.
in the literal museum. We're at a hospital, and nurse says,
The family's all in there.
Family?
Yeah, they all came out to see her. She's been in cryosleep for almost 2 years.
and we open the door into this very crowded room.
And by the way, that nurse is from Silence of the Lambs. That's the girl in the pit. That's her in the pit. Yes.
She puts the lotion in the basket?
She puts the lotion in the basket. She survived all this time. Wow. Yeah. Such a random thing for her to be in, but maybe there was more scenes with her. I don't know. It's so interesting.
Well, I mean, it's not like she's had that much of a career since Silence of the Lambs.
She was a series regular on Grey's Anatomy for years.
Oh, was she?
So,
Oh.
yeah. So
Oh.
she's done a lot of stuff. It's just that this so random, you know? Like Topher. I'll be in a few scenes, you know?
And all of the Cooper family turns around to look at him. The whole notion of this is so surreal.
Yeah.
Like, he essentially skipped 100 years, multiple generations of his family, and he's still 30-something, or 40, whatever age he is.
Yeah.
And there's Murph in the bed. He sits down, I think, in awe of her. And he takes her hand, and they smile at each other. It's so moving, this sequence.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
He says,
"You told him I like farming." It was me, Murph. I was your ghost.
I know. People didn't believe me. They thought that I was doing it all myself. But
and we see that she's still wearing the watch.
I knew who it was. Nobody believed me. But I knew you'd come back.
How? And this line is going to make me cry right now.
Because my dad promised me.
Yeah, especially because for how many years did she believe her dad had abandoned her, right? Yep. So to have her now embrace the new feeling around it, I think is great. And obviously for a number of decades since, it's been great.
I'm here now, Murph. I'm here.
And then shockingly, I think. And it's interesting because it relates to what Dr. Mann said. It relates to what Brand said about the remembering the dead and what's the utility of that, and all these ideas of parents and children. She says,
no parent should have to watch their own child die. I have my kids here for me now. You go.
Wow. Yeah, I was really shocked when that moment happened. And I was very shocked that Murph doesn't fight back, or Cooper doesn't push to stay or fight back on it and just accepts her wishes. And maybe that's an honoring thing. Like, you know, you lived all this time without me. Who am I to come in now and at the last moments of your life and try to claim this area that your kids and your family should have a part of? Maybe in that moment, Cooper understands and when she requests that, he grants it to her and walks away from it, you know, because he has to continue. And she's about to tell him that.
and what we're going to do is we're going to see two things intercut while she delivers this monologue. The first is that we cut to Brand and that we see she's on a planet. The American flag is there. We see that she has set up a grave site for Edmonds, who did die. We see his NASA badge. And at the same time, we essentially see Cooper and Tars steal a Ranger and they get in and fly. And at this point, it's like, oh, Tars is his RT unit at this point, you know?
Basically, yeah.
Because he's got him locked into the ship and they're flying off together. And we hear...
She's out there, setting up camp, alone, in a strange galaxy. Maybe right now she's settling in for the long nap by the light of her new sun in her new home.
And so essentially what we set up with this final monologue is Brand waiting somewhere on this planet in this other galaxy and Cooper rushing to meet her. And she'll probably go to sleep, I would guess, like Dr. Mann did, and someday he is going to wake her up. And that is the end of Interstellar.
Very hopeful ending, you know? I love this ending. And I know some people, as I said, some people have issues with how happy the ending is. But I think for all we endure in this movie, there is this sense of it's a very honest ending, I think, in what Nolan set out to do with this film, which is to be more hopeful. And, you know, he's secretly, for all the stuff he puts his characters through, he's secretly a hopeful filmmaker. Even at the end of Inception with that spinning top, it can go either way. So hope is possible, you know? And so in all of his movies, I think he has that. Even in the Batman, darker Batman stuff, there is this sense of like hope of a better future, a better existence, a better way of being. And it's throughout his whole movies, you know? And I love that it's so well laid out in these final moments where Murph, you know, gets him to let her go because he's got to move on. And Brand is there. And so I don't know if they're going to start a relationship. I don't know what happens with him and Brand, but they clearly have crossed a line in their relationship by the banter they have near the end of their interactions in the film, that you hope those two will be able to work together to, you know, create a whole new civilization, and will be a civilization that's created from a place of goodness. And that's a great thing.
I think some stories have very built-in destinations. Like there are some stories which shock you at the end and you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe what happened.
Yeah.
This movie, it had to end hopeful. How could you have gone through this whole film? Like, what are you going to do? You cut back to Earth and you just see a bunch of desiccated dead bodies because they failed?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Like, this is a movie about saving humanity, and you're going to save humanity, you know?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I don't really have anything about Post. It's a beautifully edited movie. It was released on November 4th, 2014. It was the largest global IMAX release up to that point. This is as that transition of IMAX being a thing that more and more movies are playing through because they get those higher ticket prices and we get those big screens.
Yeah.
It was nominated for score, design, sound editing, visual effects, which it won, and that's it. It was not nominated for Best Picture.
That's crazy.
It's funny because this is the same year as Whiplash. So the Best Picture nominations that year are American Sniper, Boyhood, Grand Budapest Hotel, Imitation Game, Selma, Theory of Everything, and Whiplash, and Birdman is the winner that year.
I'd have tossed Boyhood out the door and put in Interstellar 100% over that film. Ugh, I don't get why people love that movie. Interminable when I watched that movie.
That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, about Boyhood? Yeah.
And that is everything I have on Interstellar.
Wow.
John, do you have final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm so happy we did this film in the season of Nolan because there's something that this is where I think Nolan crosses the line into greatness. This film. Because I think every great filmmaker has one epic within them. Doesn't mean they always get to make that epic. But when they do, you're just like in awe of it. And it's like watching a player come into their prime. I compare it to sports. When you get those seasons where this person is unstoppable. And when you're watching this film, you are seeing the beginning of Nolan's prime. We're still in Nolan's prime, by the way. Odyssey is probably going to be like his Super Bowl season or NBA title season. And I think that's what's great about this movie. It signifies that this is an incredible filmmaker who has come and demands your attention and is exploring and expanding the medium of film. And what he does in telling just a very simple story of a father and daughter and the abandonment that the daughter feels that the father has done, and puts it in this incredibly complex and scientific-based movie that is also a commentary on the hope and the future of our humanity and who we should strive to be. And it's fascinating to watch this film, Steve, in 2026 because of how divided we are, how wrecked we seem to be in every interaction about everything. And when you watch this movie, it's almost quaint to believe that we ever believed a future like that was possible for what's happening in our world right now. And so I think this film is a reminder, a great reminder, that we can achieve and aspire to be more, to be greater, to use science in a way that isn't selfish, but it's to help everybody. And I think that's a great message coming out of the movie, and the power of love. Because as I said a few moments ago, love is what will make sure we stay alive and can exist in this world. Hate will destroy us. Absolutely. Like love and hate and do the right thing. Yeah. Love will save the day. And you can feel as cheesy about it as you want. It's the fucking truth. And I love that he was unabashed about presenting that by the end of the movie. So I love this movie to pieces. Technically brilliant, score-wise brilliant, which you talked about as well, Steve, and the direction and the performances, all of it. To me, this is, I know people hate to use that word nowadays, but I'm going to use it. It's a fucking masterpiece. And I stand by it for till the end of time.
I want to go back to something you said, I think in our first part, which was you said that Nolan is a combination of Spielberg and Kubrick. And yes. I think that is so insightful. And I think because what you have is, first of all, Steven Spielberg is the consummate craftsman. You know, like he is the guy that understands the medium of film top to bottom. Nolan is too. And what's interesting too is that he wants to push it, to experiment. He puts himself in situations where he goes, no, we're going to do real science, and that's going to create all these limitations. We're going to do real effects, and that's going to create all those limitations. I'm going to give Hans Zimmer a short story and then send him off to research pipe organs. You know, throughout this whole thing, he's always pushing things and going into these spaces that Spielberg would not go into. So he, you know, because Spielberg wants to tell us a story that in the end it makes sense. And this is, you know, it's classic storytelling. But the Kubrick side of Nolan wants to push things. He wants to go into areas where you have to think, where you're not quite sure what's going on, where you don't know. And whereas Spielberg has a very positive opinion of humans, Nolan has a much more complicated one.
Yes.
You know, he doesn't think we're so reliable all the time, that we're not reliable narrators, and the biggest thing, and so many of his movies do this, which is we can't actually really understand the world around us. We only think we understand the world around us. We're always kind of hanging on by our fingertips. And that's how I feel through this movie, particularly through the last sequence where they're hanging on by their fingertips from the point of getting to man's planet until the end of the Tesseract, where it's just like desperate to survive. But, and to your other point, it's like, this one is hopeful. I actually don't see a lot of hope in Memento. I don't see a lot of hope in some of his other movies, but this one genuinely is. This one, he has a positive message. And this is a guy, I mean, with Oppenheimer, which I think is an astounding film, and now the Odyssey coming, I agree with you. Maybe he's just hitting his stride, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So that is what we think of Interstellar. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. You can visit us on Facebook. Do a search for The Cine-Files. It's Cine_Files on Twitter, The Cine-Files Podcast on Instagram. You can, of course, subscribe to the show if you haven't already on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcast or any of those places. If you have a chance to leave a comment there, we love to read them. If you have a chance to leave a review, those are even better. We're very excited by them. And you can support the show on patreon.com/The Cine-Files and reach me at SR Morris on Twitter. John, how would people reach you?
You can always reach me at The Rocha Says on all social media platforms there. And you can head on over to my YouTube channel if you want to hear me talk about films and entertainment news more on various shows there. The Hot Mic, The Geek Buddies, Spill the Tequila, and my reactions and reviews there. And sometimes The Truth, and a new show coming very soon here that we're working on over the next couple of months that will debut on the channel very soon as well, the John Rocha channel. So head on over there, youtube.com/John Rocha Says. But also always remember to subscribe to our Cine-Files YouTube channel because we are doing live shows on those channels and we're dropping all our episodes on those channels as well. So you can hear it there on our YouTube channel on the Cine-Files there on YouTube.
And speaking of live shows, we have just passed the Cine-Files 10-year anniversary. 10 years, John, that we have been doing this show. And to celebrate, we're going to be doing a live show this coming Sunday, July 5th at 3 p.m. on our YouTube channel. So that's the special 10-year anniversary celebration right on our YouTube channel on Sunday at 3 o'clock Pacific time, July 5th. That's it for this week. We'll be back for the live show next week right here on the Cine-Files.